Let's get right into it. Number 10. The Pinto's Fiery Secret. You're driving home from work in your brand new 1971 Ford Pinto. You're feeling pretty good about your purchase. This car only cost you $2,000. Suddenly, someone rear-ends you at just 20 miles per hour. In the Pinto, this minor fender bender could be your last ride. Ford had a dirty little secret. They knew that even a minor rear-end collision could turn their budget car into a fireball. The fuel tank was behind the rear axle, with nothing but a thin sheet of metal between it and any car that might hit you from behind. The fuel tank could be punctured by bolts sticking out from the differential. Ford knew about this problem before they ever sold a single Pinto. They did crash tests. They saw the fires. They had the data. But instead of fixing it, they did something unthinkable. They calculated it would cost $11 per car to make the fuel tank safer. With 12.5 million cars, that would cost about $137 million. Then they estimated the cost of letting people burn to death instead. They valued each human life at $200,000, each serious burn injury at $67,000. They predicted 180 deaths and 180 injuries. Total cost, $49.5 million. Ford made a choice. They decided your life was worth less than $11. They kept this secret for years while people burned alive in their cars. It wasn't until 1977 when Mother Jones magazine exposed Ford's internal documents. By then, estimates say between 27 and 180 people had already died in Pinto fires. Number 9. Takata's Surprise Shrapnel. You're driving down the highway, and someone cuts you off. You slam on the brakes, and your airbag deploys. But instead of saving your life, it shoots metal shards at your face at 200 miles per hour. That's exactly what happened to hundreds of people thanks to Takata's faulty airbags. There's a small explosion that fills the bag with gas really fast. But Takata decided to use a cheaper explosive called ammonium nitrate. Ammonium nitrate is super unstable when it gets hot or humid. It's the same stuff that caused the massive explosion in Beirut in 2020. That's what Takata put inches from people's faces. Takata knew about this problem as early as 2000. They faked their safety test results. When airbags exploded during testing, they edited those results out. The company's engineers wrote emails joking about falsifying data. By the time Takata finally admitted the truth, their airbags had been linked to dozens of deaths and hundreds of injuries. The final recall covered 67 million airbags, more than the population of the UK. Takata went bankrupt after paying $1 billion fine. Some of these airbags are still out there. People are driving around with what's essentially a small bomb in their steering wheel, and the older these airbags get, the more dangerous they become. Number 8. The Not-So-Magic Peanut Butter. In 2008, a simple peanut butter sandwich could have landed you in the hospital, or worse. The Peanut Corporation of America had their peanut butter testing positive for salmonella, but instead of doing a recall, they looked at their contaminated product and wrote, "Just ship it," in company emails. When lab tests came back positive for salmonella, they'd just keep testing until they got a negative result. It's like retaking a test until you get an A, except people could die. 9 people lost their lives. Over 700 people got sick across 46 states. Some of them were kids in hospital eating peanut butter crackers, thinking they were getting a treat. Instead, they were getting poison. The CEO, Stuart Parnell, knew exactly what was happening. When told about the contamination, he complained that tests were costing us huge money. The incident triggered the biggest food recall in U.S. history at the time. More than 3,900 different products had to be pulled from shelves. One company's greed affected thousands of other products. Parnell got 28 years in prison. That's the harshest sentence ever handed down in a food safety case. Number 7. Boeing's self-flying plane. Boeing's 737 MAX had a secret system that could take control from the pilots without their knowledge. Boeing needed their new plane to handle like their old one, so airlines wouldn't have to train pilots. Their solution was MCAS, a hidden computer system that would automatically point the plane's nose down if it sensed a potential stall, but Boeing never told the pilots about it. In October 2018, Lion Air Flight 610 crashed into the Java Sea, killing all 189 people on board. Boeing blamed the pilots. 5 months later, Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302 crashed in the same way, killing 157 more people. Boeing still insisted nothing was wrong with their plane. Internal messages between Boeing employees revealed they knew about the problems all along. One employee wrote, "This airplane is designed by clowns who are supervised by monkeys." Another wrote, "Would you put your family on a MAX simulator-trained aircraft?" I wouldn't. These messages were sent before the crashes. The 737 MAX was grounded worldwide for almost 2 years. Boeing paid $2.5 billion in fines and settlements, but money can't bring back 346 lives. Number 6. The Dark Waters Teflon Toxin. Back in the 1950s, DuPont started making Teflon, a miracle coating that made cooking easy and was in everything from pans to pizza boxes, but they knew it was toxic. They had internal documents showing their factory workers were getting sick. They had studies showing it caused cancer in lab animals. They even had birth defects showing up in factory workers' babies, but instead of stopping production, they kept going. They dumped thousands of tons of toxic waste into the Ohio River. The chemical they used is called PFOA, known as the forever chemical. It never breaks down, not in a year, not in a century, maybe not even in 1,000 years. It just keeps building up in your body, in the soil, in the water. Right now, it's in the blood of 99% of Americans. DuPont knew all this back in 1961. The truth only came out because of a farmer named Wilbur Tennant. His cows started dying horrible deaths. Their teeth turned black. Their organs were deformed. His farm was downstream from one of DuPont's toxic dumping grounds. When lawyer Rob Bellot took the case, he discovered DuPont had been running secret medical tests on their workers for decades. They knew exactly what this chemical did to people. DuPont finally got caught and paid hundreds of millions in settlements, but those forever chemicals are still out there. They're in your blood, in your kids' blood, and they'll probably be in your grandkids' blood too. Number 5. GM's nap time switch. Your engine dies, your power steering fails, your airbags are disabled, and you're now piloting a 2-ton metal coffin at 70 miles per hour. GM had designed an ignition switch that could flip from run to off if your keychain was too heavy, or if you hit a bump in the road, or sometimes just because it felt like taking a nap. When the switch turned off, it disabled everything, including all the safety systems. GM knew about this problem all the way back in 2001. They had engineers documenting the issue, test drivers complaining about it, and they even had a fix that would cost less than $1 per car. Instead of fixing it, they waited to see how many people would die before they had to act. They sent out a bulletin to dealers suggesting they tell customers to remove heavy items from their keychains, because apparently, it was the customer's fault for having too many keys. The cover-up went on for 13 years. During that time, at least 124 people died. Internal documents showed GM had calculated it would cost about 57 cents per car to fix the switch. People died because GM didn't want to spend less than the price of a candy bar per vehicle. The company eventually paid $900 million in fines, but not a single GM executive went to jail. Number 4. Chernobyl's sunny forecast. It's April 27, 1986, and you're living in Kiev, Ukraine. The sun is shining, birds are chirping, and the local weather report is telling you it's a perfect day for outdoor activities. About 60 miles away, the Chernobyl nuclear reactor had just exploded, sending a massive radioactive cloud your way. The Soviet government didn't just hide the disaster, they actively encouraged people to go outside. They even planned a massive May Day parade in Kiev, where thousands of children would march in the open air. Meanwhile, the invisible cloud of death was floating right above their heads. The Soviets weren't just lying about the weather, they were controlling it. They sent up military aircraft to seed the clouds with silver iodide. This would force the radioactive clouds to rain out over rural Belarus, instead of reaching a major city like Moscow. The people in these rural areas had no idea they were being used as human shields. They watched as black rain fell from the sky, not knowing each drop was loaded with nuclear particles. The May Day parade went ahead as planned. Thousands of kids marched through Kiev's streets while Soviet officials had already secretly evacuated their own families. The cover-up only broke after Sweden detected the radiation, and the Soviets had to admit something was wrong. By then, thousands of people had been exposed to radiation they could have avoided if someone had just told them to stay inside. Number 3. BP's understatement of the century. BP's Deepwater Horizon oil rig exploded in the Gulf of Mexico in 2010. Their first public statement claimed they were dealing with a relatively tiny spill, but 210 million gallons of oil poured into the ocean. That's enough oil to fill 320 Olympic-sized swimming pools. To hide this massive disaster, BP dumped nearly 2 million gallons of a chemical called Corexit into the ocean. Corexit doesn't clean up oil, it just makes it invisible. It's like sweeping dirt under a rug, except the rug is the ocean floor. Corexit mixed with oil is more toxic than either substance alone. BP had internal documents proving they knew this, but they used it anyway. The mixture created underwater toxic plumes up to 22 miles long. Fish swimming through these plumes got their gills clogged with oil. Dolphins started washing up dead on beaches. BP hired local fishing boats for the cleanup. These fishermen got sick from breathing Corexit fumes, and many still have breathing problems today. The media stopped showing oil-covered beaches. BP's stock price recovered, but the Gulf of Mexico is still suffering from the toxic mixture of oil and Corexit buried in the sediment. Number 2. The Rana Plaza Final Markdown. Imagine you're at work, and you notice huge cracks in the walls. Not little hairline cracks, but gaps so big you can see daylight through them. You tell your boss, but instead of evacuating, they tell you to get back to work. And if you don't, you can kiss your month's salary goodbye. That's exactly what happened at Rana Plaza in Bangladesh back in 2013. This was a massive 8-story building filled with clothing factories. Local TV stations even came and filmed these cracks. The building was briefly evacuated. The next morning, bank employees on the lower floors were told to stay home, but the garment workers were forced back inside. Factory managers told them the building was totally safe. At 8:45 a.m., the power went out, the backup generators kicked in on the upper floors, and the whole building collapsed like a house of cards. 1,134 people died that day. Another 2,500 were injured. Many were trapped in the rubble for days. The building's owner had built extra floors illegally, and the building wasn't designed to handle the weight of all the industrial machinery. Workers found labels from brands like Walmart and Primark in the rubble. These companies first denied any connection, only admitting a link when the evidence became overwhelming. The owner was caught trying to flee to India and is now in prison. And those $5 t-shirts we love so much? Someone's paying the real price for those markdowns, and it's not us. Number 1. Big Tobacco's health tip. Back in the 1950s, tobacco companies knew something terrifying. Their products were killing people, but instead of warning people, they launched one of the most cynical campaigns in history. They put real doctors in ads, showing them holding up Camel cigarettes, claiming more doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarette. They even had ads claiming smoking could help with anxiety and even asthma. They were telling people with breathing problems to smoke more. When scientists proved smoking caused cancer, tobacco companies created a fake research institute. They called it the Tobacco Industry Research Committee. Their job wasn't to do research. Their job was to spread doubt about real research. An internal memo from one company laid out their entire strategy in 3 chilling words. Doubt is our product. It took 50 years and millions of deaths before they were finally forced to admit the truth. The cost of this cover-up was about 100 million lives in the 20th century alone. That's more deaths than both world wars combined. Those same tactics of creating doubt about science are still being used today by other industries to protect their profits. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.